Good morning and welcome to the SCRD Committee of the Whole meeting for Thursday, July the 10th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are on the territories of the Sechelt and Squamish nations. We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes proposed to this agenda? Seeing nobody vying for my attention, I shall pause. Yes, then can I see a motion to adopt the agenda? Moved, seconded, all in favor? And we have an agenda. Thank you very much. We have no presentations or delegations at present. We have reports. Could I have a motion to receive all reports and communications? Moved, seconded, all in favor? And those are received. First up, Strategic Priority Fund Grant Application Money. We love money. Over to General Manager Rosenboom. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, directors. Good morning, Chair. Thank you. There is a grant opportunity for the Strategic Priority Fund to apply for funding for large capital projects to support communities. And the intent of the program is to support capital costs for local governments, infrastructure projects that are large in scale, regional in impact, and support the economical development of an area. And staff considered the projects that we currently have on the go and confirmed that the Langdale Well Development Project would be the strongest candidate to submit an application for. Applications are available, or grant funding is available for an amount up to $7 million. So if we were to get this grant, we could reduce the amount of long-term loan that we currently have allocated for this project. So staff are seeking board approval to actually submit this application in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you. And wait, let me go to my speakers list. Oh, it doesn't seem to be working. Director Inkster.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's no big deal. It's 2020 again. Yeah. So no big deal. Yeah, I mean, the report's clear. The presentation from General Manager Rosenblum was clear. I'm prepared to move the recommendations as presented. Basically, the General Manager had me at hello because I will always be looking for ways to save money on the increasing costs associated with our water bills. So I will move them if that's allowed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see a seconder. Are there? Director Stamford. Oh, look, and she did it in eScribe. Awesome.
Oh, good. Some technology is working fine here. Thank you, Chair. I just have a question of clarification on page 2. Not only is this a great opportunity, but it seems this project keeps going down in cost. So I just want to be clear on there's a statement that says that the estimated cost of the preferred option is $13.1 million, excluding the contingency, which is significantly lower than the original project estimate of 18. I seem to remember that the original project was in the neighborhood of 22 million. Can somebody just clarify, is the project going down, or am I not quite reading it correctly?
Over to staff.
Thank you. Thanks for picking up on that. I noticed that this morning as well, and apologies. The project estimate currently is 18.1, and the long-term loan component of that currently is estimated at 13.1. So there's a mix of numbers. Sorry for the confusion.
Thank you. Follow up?
That's fine. It's still lower. That's not not confusing for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have one question about this grant program. Is this an all or nothing deal? If we apply for 7 million, we either get a yes or a no, or is it a we like your project, but we're only going to give you 5 million sort of deal?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, it's they could always award a lower amount, but we will be asking for the maximum amount.
Wonderful. All right. I see, Director Capias.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in favor of this, obviously. The question is, are we planning on applying for any grant for any other projects? I see we can apply for up to 3, I think, for infrastructure. So are we planning on applying for grants for more projects? And would applying for more projects reduce the kind of get in our way? Like, is picking one giving us a better chance of getting the money for that project?
Over to staff.
So staff spoke with the granting agency and reviewed several projects that we were contemplating. And essentially, we have determined based on the merits, so the highest qualifications of the grant. And yes, of course, they would only give you one grant, so you have to put your best foot forward. So you'd be essentially competing against yourself. They won't provide you funding for multiple different projects. They'd only provide you for one. You're also competing within the region as well. And so if Town of Gibson's, District of Seashelt, or other, if the nation would be applying as well, we would be also competing for the region.
Thank you. I see no further virtual hands or real hands, at least on the topic. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next up, South Pender Harbor Water Main Replacement. And I believe we're over to infrastructure again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. In 2022, the board, as part of the budget process, approved a budget of $600,000 for water main replacement in South Pender. Staff were working to undertake those works this year, and were sidetracked with a large water main break early March in the project area, which resulted in us getting expedited approvals from Ministry of Transportation and Transit. And that allowed us to not only fix the main water main break itself, but also replace a larger section in that area. So ultimately, 350 meters of water main were replaced, and it requires significantly more rock material to be removed than originally anticipated. So the original contract with our contractor was under the threshold to be approved by the board, but we're now asking for a contract amendment that needs to be approved by the board so that we can for the project. And there will be a budget proposal presented to the board for 2026 to complete the remainder of this section of the asbestos cement work that's still present in South Pender. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Oh, look, Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't catch exactly how much of the 450 meters we got done with this funding. I missed that. I believe we had 450 meters originally planned between Rendezvous and Pope, and this break occurred right in the middle of that section. So I was wondering, did we get 450 done, or we get 250, or how far did we get?
Staff?
Thank you. As indicated on page 2 of the report, the total section is 580 meters, and we were able to complete 350 of that.
Thank you. Page 2, I missed that. Anyways, I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendations on page 1 of 4.2.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? I see a seconder. Are there any further water main questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Thank you very much. And next up, we have the Transit Improvement Program, Service Improvements and Expansion Priorities. Over to GM Gagnon.
Thank you, Chair. The report in front of you today is reflective of a planning process that we go through every year for transit services on the Sunshine Coast. Advanced planning for these 3-year transit improvement priorities helps both the SCRD and BC Transit forecast long-term funding requirements, as well as provides the lead time necessary to acquire additional fleet. Staff and BC Transit were pleased to host the inaugural intergovernmental meeting back in May to review data on ridership. These performance metrics, along with consideration of development initiatives, the Transit Future Action Plan, the Custom Transit Service Review, help inform and/or confirm priorities for transit improvement and expansion over the next 3 years. For the past 2 years, the Sunshine Coast Transit System has received provincial funding to support expansion initiatives that have been identified, and when we receive the additional 2 fleet units, to support the over 5,600 hours of additional service in the new year, this will represent a 10% increase in our conventional service and over an 80% increase in our custom service. The next 3 years of proposed initiatives also represent a significant increase in service hours for the system and fleet units, and cannot be done without moving forward on the infrastructure needs that were identified late last year in December to the board, namely a satellite parking site to provide short-term solution as we progress toward planning for a new operations and maintenance facility that will provide the necessary modernized yards and garage to support not only the growth that is being proposed, but also the electrification of the fleet. An update on this will be provided to the board later in the fall. So staff are recommending that the committee support the preparation of the Memorandum of Understanding that will come back in September for these service improvements that have been identified in the report, and I'm happy to answer questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask when we were going to hear back, but you told me that this fall. Director Bax.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to staff for preparing this, and the MOU. It's a really exciting time in our transit system. I have a question about input and who is, I see the modifications. I'm especially interested in the modifications in Route 1. That goes through my community, and I wanted to ask who is going to have input on these changes in the route, because I do have some people in my community that are very well informed on transit, and they have opinions, and I'd like to know if there's going to be an opportunity for them to express those opinions.
Great question, staff.
Thank you, Chair. The modification of Route 1 and the addition of Route 5 are actually outlined in the Transit Future Action Plan that the board approved in 2022, which had significant community input. So if you want more details, go to the Transit Future Action Plan. It's clearly outlined there. If we are approved for additional funding, and as we begin to advance and get into the detailed planning for that initiative, if there is areas of concern or where we need to go back out to the community and get some additional input, we'll be doing that. At this point in time, it's a bit premature to, we're not that far in the planning, but certainly high-level information is available in the Transit Future Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask a related question because I do get inquiries about it. Do we review the location of bus stops, and do we move them occasionally, especially as, you know, the surroundings change and perhaps needs change? Do we move bus stops? And if so, is there, what's the process? Thanks.
Thank you. That's a good question. The answer is yes and yes. We do move bus stops. We have an example of a bus stop that is under review right now. That is on the intersection of, Masqueton Lane and the highway just outside of Seashelt. With the new development and the new intersection that went up, we did have a bus stop that was sort of left stranded in a not so safe area. So we've closed that bus stop temporarily. We're working with the road authority, as well as our partners and planners at BC Transit to identify where that stop could be relocated to. So as initiatives or questions are raised in the community, we will take a look at them and we'll determine whether or not it's a candidate for relocation. And we look at ridership at that stop, all sorts of indicators around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Inkster.
Thank you, Chair. With the number of the improvements that we talked about are as has been mentioned and bandied about over the last couple of years, is West Seashelt, it looks like, as it appears here. I always try to make sure I get I'm lucky we don't have a lot of routes, because is that 2? Is that West Seashelt? 4 Half Moon Bay? I'm trying to figure that out. So I'm glad to see those. The assumption is with more regular, predictable bus stopping in West Seashelt and pickups, that there will be more use in that neighborhood, which is growing quite large, and there's a lot of density occurring in the neighborhood from Seashelt to almost to Half Moon Bay. My question is, in saying that, is there do we know if there's a lag in use when the new service is being introduced to that area? Because what I would love to see, Chair, is usage go up to the point where our taxpayer, once again, like water, taxpayer commitment either levels or starts to decrease based on usage. Now, I know that people don't pay that much to ride the bus, but I'm just hoping, and if staff knows whether there's a lag in use when the new services are introduced into those areas, and then there's a sort of a slow but gradual, a slow move to a high use, which means more revenue for us on those routes, and then consequently we can expand to Half Moon Bay and with more routes. Thank you, and more times.
Thanks. Over to staff.
Thanks, Chair. So a couple of things. So every year we review revenue projections, and that is part of the AOA. So every year our revenues are adjusted to be reflective of ridership or trends in ridership. When we look at increased service hours, we also get we forecast additional revenue. So that's already built into our budgets and then reviewed annually. A good example of lag is the 800 hours that we just started on Saturdays and Sundays, where we have, and this is a great opportunity to promote it again, where we do have 2 buses coming into the Langdale Ferry Terminal at certain times within 10 minutes of one another. So we have already been watching those stats in terms of ridership, and we do see what we would consider a bit of a lag. So we have launched a bit of a social media blitz. We're putting up some additional signs. We're using an opportunity like today to promote this new opportunity, because I don't think our riders have really caught on to it quite yet. So, and again, we monitor those stats, and every year we look at our ridership and we make adjustments accordingly. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'm not seeing any. We have recommendations. She hinted. Director Gabius.
Yes, Chair. Thanks for the prompt. I would like to move the recommendations of item 4.3. Does that? Yeah, that
Sure.
works.
Is there a seconder? And that is seconded. Is there any further discussion of the recommendations? If not, I'm calling the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that passes. Thank you very much. And, oh, look, this software moved me automatically to the next item. It's very exciting when the software works. Annual reporting of corporate greenhouse gas emissions, and over to our manager of sustainable development.
Thank you, Chair. The SCRD corporate greenhouse gas emissions policy, target policy, states that Sustainable Development Division will calculate corporate GHG emissions annually and report on options for meeting these targets. So this report, as you see, outlines how emissions have stayed relatively consistent over the several years, but also states that recently completed or currently underway projects will have a material impact on our emissions. Yet even with these, estimates are that more will need to be done to meet our 2026 targets. Staff are currently analyzing options to help inform upcoming decisions, and we'll be bringing those decisions to you in different mechanisms like the 2026 budget, feasibility studies, or capital planning. Happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Director Bax.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, but I see that in the report it shows that one of the largest electrical users that we have is our aquatic center in Sechelt. Now, I was wondering if there's any alternate electrical production at that site. Solar panels. Are there any solar panels on the roof of the aquatic center that could help offset the electrical costs and the greenhouse gases that are produced thereby?
Manager Shea.
Thank you, Chair. I believe the graph that's being referred to is about natural gas consumption, which is the primary driver for greenhouse gas emissions. The Sechelt Aquatic Center does have a solar thermal system, and part of the local government climate action program funds, we SCRD elected to use them to get that system optimized again with the heat pumps that are contributing to our emissions reductions this year.
Thank you. I have a question. On page 24, there is a handy-dandy list of what is in scope and what is out of scope for this policy. So, and I assume that is not set up by us. We don't choose the scope. But I'm just wondering how we track emissions that are out of scope of this policy, such as landfill and transit, and who's responsible. If we get electric buses, that benefits BC Transit's accounting and not ours, or how does it work?
Thank you, Chair. The scope as defined in the policy is the board's decision. The list that is there comes from the traditional services inventory, which is rooted in the local government climate action program. And they tend to be comparable amongst local governments, and they tend to be areas where local governments have a greater amount of control. BC Transit and our transit service, control is, we have influence, but we don't own those buses. Hence, even though we count the fuel use and we know that, those emissions are accounted for amongst BC Transit's corporate profile. And for the landfill, those are reported annually federally. So we do calculate and estimate those emissions annually and report those federally.
Thank you. Director Inkster, are you next?
Thank you, Chair, through you to staff on this one. It's good to see the, in a sense, leveling off and then the projection for a decline this year when obviously we're offering more services and more employees, et cetera. So it's good to see much better than what the federal government is committed to reducing greenhouse gases, actually trying to move towards those goals. We also need further reductions because of the challenges we're facing as a planet. But the question I would ask is, In reference to the aquatic center fossil fuel, and I'm assuming the fossil fuel designation that you put here was because our electricity is used through dams, not any other form of generation. That's why we're designating it as that. Luckily, I'm assuming, because in other areas they have to use fossil fuels to generate electricity. So we're lucky in British Columbia. That's my assumption. So we're looking for a reduction this year of 15%. Because of the large contribution to our greenhouse gases, I guess we're continuing to look at, as we move forward, continuing to look at ways, because it's such a huge issue, if we can. And I'm hoping that in future technologies improve, as they have been, to look at other ways. Because I'm assuming this is all about water heating and things like that. That's why there's so much energy use there. And Chair, I always wonder when we see figures like this, whether if we would have twinned facilities, whether we would have reduced the greenhouse gas emissions. That's always the wonderment you have when you make decisions in government, right? Is if we would have put an ice rink next to a pool, whether we would have been able to lower the greenhouse gases substantially. So I hope there was a question in there you can answer, because I'm always glad you're here to ask these environmental questions of you. So thanks.
Over to staff.
As part of the analysis on how we can meet the board's policy, staff are also trying to align capital plan replacement schedules. And the boilers at the Seashell Aquatic Center are nearing end of life in the following 5 or so years. So that's giving us time to plan for how those emissions may be reduced. And then as part of the potential recreation services, I won't speak, there is an opportunity there to address benefits of co-locating ice and aquatic centers, but all.
Sure. GM Gagnon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the question. You're correct in a couple of ways. I think the approval of the policy was very important because it did allow us to go back within our capital plans, which, if you recall, are a like-for-like replacement. And so with this policy now, we can review our capital plans and look at opportunity for not a like-for-like and ways to, in fact, try and reduce our GHGs. And as in Manager Shea's report, when he brought it forward in the initial place for the policy, there will be the outlay cost of that might be a bit higher than the like-for-like was, but over the long haul, there should be some savings, and if not savings, at least we're doing our part in terms of environmental considerations. The second piece is the recreation facility needs assessment. We know we have especially 2 buildings that are coming to, maybe they're in their twilight, let's say, they're older, and we have 4 separate facilities, and so there hopefully will be some consideration around what the future looks like, and could there be some changes to that or considerations around the potential co-location of facilities from a cogeneration heat perspective and looking at those business cases. So we're hoping that's part of the consideration as we look at the costs that are projected to have to be invested in those older facilities, and when do we hit this cost benefit. And typically they say when the cost of investment in an old facility is greater than 50% of the cost of a new facility, you need to start looking at a different way of thinking. So definitely on our radar, definitely lots of good conversations to come around this. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's much in the news. The aquatic facility in Vancouver and the cycling, was it a velodrome? Everybody's struggling with these aging recreational facilities that are expensive to maintain. Director White.
Yeah, I hear the rationale for the good future planning here, but it still strikes me looking at the statistics here that the one facility that really jumps out is one of our newer facilities. So that's problematic, just with that, you know, the kind of, I mean, it's totally sensible, like, maybe we need to, if the replacement costs of or the maintenance costs of the older facilities get too high, maybe they need to be co-located, but if they're co-located at the Seashell Aquatic Center, it's still massively higher in fuel emissions costs than any of the older facilities. So I think that's got to be our primary consideration here. I'm wondering about those replacement costs too. I mean, just looking down, Gibson's aquatic facility, are those kinds of considerations being made that are being done at Seashell Aquatic Center in terms of having a solar thermal system and heat pumps? What's the status there for the fossil fuel, the energy use in those buildings, or that building, I mean, our older Gibson's in District Aquatic Center?
And who would like to take that? Jim Gagnon?
Yes, and you know, in hindsight, we should have had Manager Van Velzen here to speak to some of this as well, because he is the expert on the facility operations of those facilities. However, in terms of the Gibson's District Aquatic Facility, we do have a very old building, and part of the consideration is, do we invest in that building and upgrade in that building with the consideration for energy efficiency, or do we look at something different? I think those are all questions for the future that we continue to talk about. I mean, aquatic facilities, especially ones that were built a long time ago, and even ones that were just, you know, in the last 10 years, they consume energy, which is why a lot of aquatic facilities are now being co-located with arenas from a cogeneration, right? They use each other's energy to heat the pool, and looking at even what's that word I'm looking for? Sort of energy centers where you can share energy. Unfortunately, we're landlocked with some of our facilities, and so we are going to have some limitations. So there's, like I said, I think lots of planning and consideration over the next few years that's going to be important for the future of our facilities.
Thank you very much. Did you have a follow-up, Director?
Yeah, I guess I'll just point out the obvious again, and that if the Seashell Aquatic Center is an example of a newer facility, and it's the kind of emissions that it has, that wouldn't be advantageous to go to that model for Gibson's.
Thank you. And I'll point out the obvious, that the Gibson's pool is right next to an ice rink. But there's never, it's very close to the curling rink, right? And there's never been a serious look at having those two facilities because they're separately owned. But there they are, right next door to each other. Maybe there's an opportunity. Director Gabius.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for the report. Very important to reiterate the importance of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions where we have control. It was interesting what Jim Gagnon said earlier about the savings, like the long-term savings of some of the projects, and wondering if are there mechanisms to identify and communicate out those like co-benefits of, you know, say installing heat pumps. I know for myself in my house, when we installed the heat pump, we saw a drastic decrease of our bills, which is wonderful. So in order to kind of show that it's actually a big investment, but there's co-benefits down the line, do we have mechanisms to report that out?
Staff.
Thank you for the question. The heat pumps at the Seashell Aquatic Center are having a huge impact, and we've had some press releases going out to that effect to celebrate the good news. We also have energy audits completed on other facilities, and as HVAC systems reach end of life, we're using that information to inform how we can better update our assets. But we're trying to link it with the timing that's involved in the capital plans and modify those capital plans so that we're looking several years out, and then the design and the feasibility studies that need to take place after an initial energy audit identifies the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Director Stanford.
Thank you. Just a addition comment that the way stats work is you're always going to have certain aspects that jump out at you. And yes, the recreational facilities do look really big, but they are one of our functions, and these buildings do take a certain amount of power to run. That's just how it just looks particularly dramatic when you see them in the pie charts and how this is being laid out statistically. But speaking of stats, looking at the fossil fuel emissions from buildings, I noticed that this building is not on the list. I don't expect it to have a huge emissions, but we're also looking at Eric Cardinal Hall here, and I just was interested to know why we didn't include this building.
Great question on the chart.
The Field Road is actually head office here is a large energy user, but it's only using electricity. There's no natural gas here, and that chart in question was primarily outlining the natural gas using facilities, and the electricity in BC has a very low carbon intensity, so they don't contribute. Even though it's a high energy user, it doesn't contribute that much compared to other areas.
Follow up.
So Eric Cardinal, what aspect of it uses gas?
Thanks for the question. There's a very small domestic hot water heater there that's on natural gas.
Interesting. All right. Director Bax, were you attempting to get in the queue here?
No, I'm fine. Thanks.
Okay. I see no one further in the queue. I believe we are simply receiving this report for information. Last chance. No more questions? Okay, thank you very much for this report. And next up, we have fire protection alternatives. And who is... Oh, water supply update. I am so sorry. I was scrolling through the wrong place. Water first, then fire.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to provide a presentation today about the water supply as we are currently seeing it. Let's see if this works on this computer. No, it doesn't. It works. Okay, so here the water supply update for July 10th, 2025. This picture was taken with still snow at the lake, which is this picture is taken during the last snow survey of the season, which happened early June this year. And you can see the dam in the midst of the dam at Chapman Lake at the midst of the picture. So as indicated early June, we did a last snow survey. Substantial decrease in snow compared to the month before, as to be expected. It's a little bit less compared to 2022 and 2023, but more than last year. And the relationship between these two, that's less or more compared to prior years, is not that direct, because last year we didn't even need to go to stage 3. And the year 2022 and 2023, of course, went to stage 3 and 4. So it's just to show that the early June recordings are really not a clear indication of which stage we might hit this summer, but it's more an indication of how early we might need to call stages. Situation at Edwards, same. But the decrease in snowpack is a little bit more than at Chapman. provincial snow map as of early June. A lot of the areas within the province are below the normal. When something is blue, it's above normal, so that's only in the far northeast, northwest side of the province. Most of the province is below, including our area. So our snow survey is actually, our results are actually not that bad compared to some others in the region. But we're already in July, so what does the weather look like for the outlook for the upcoming 3 months? This is the most recent map from June 30 from Environment Canada, and it clearly indicates that there is a high likelihood of warmer than normal temperatures for most of Canada, including our area. We had pretty stable weather around 20 degrees for the last several weeks. We had some rain on Tuesday, which was way more than at least I anticipated and all the weather forecast anticipated. So that was good news. But the weather outlook for the upcoming weeks is again above 20 degrees Celsius. So how are we doing compared to previous years? July 10, that's where we are right now. That's the line. So you can see that there are several years, 2018, 2019, 2023, 2024. It's all early July that we are going to stage 2 for our Chapman system. So it's quite a normal year from that perspective. So as of tomorrow, we're in stage 2 for the Chapman system, and that was based on the rain forecast as of Monday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, more rain fell, so the water won't be stopping overflowing the dam tomorrow, as of tomorrow, as we anticipated, but it might be a couple of days later. So Chester Well, as reported earlier, is being repaired at the moment, and we hope to get that online as soon as possible. However, Church Road is more than able to make up for the difference that Chester currently is not able to provide. There are some delays in the process around the Chapman Creek environmental flow needs reduction. DFO confirmed that they are very interested in reviewing the EFN as well. Any EFN reduction requests we didn't anticipate that. They never showed any such interest in the past, which is delaying for us to actually do the pilot production, which was scheduled to take place this summer and next summer. So we now hope to have everything in place for next year to do the pilot reduction before the province can actually confirm that they allow a permanent reduction to happen. Siphon systems, we're making good progress in our discussions with Sechelt Nation and the province for ongoing use of those for later this summer. Eastbourne, as is common for that water system, the demand significantly increased since the July long weekend because of more residents, more people are coming to the island and using water from the system. So stage 2 is also in effect as of tomorrow for that water system, just to make sure that we have sufficient water there until the end of the season without exceeding our water license maximum for that system. South Pender system, we have a substantial higher amount than last year, demand in the system compared to last year. And we've been hovering very close, very close to our maximum amount that we can use for the system on a daily basis. So stage 2 there is also in effect as of tomorrow. All other systems are still in stage 1. Communications. The message is focus on what people can do in their homes. I think all the residents on the coast that have been here now for several years, know what to do, and we really encourage them to take directions that they can do to improve the water efficiency in their homes. It's that time of the year where every action can make a difference. We still are encouraging people to sign up to the monthly water use update emails, and there's still some rainwater harvesting rebates available. Not that we anticipate that those rain cisterns can be filled this year, but installing this year would allow you to use them next year. And I don't have a slide on where we are with leaks and meters at the moment, but I can give you a quick update. We're about 90% of the meters within the sea shield area are currently installed. We're really getting close to finishing, getting to the 100%, 95 and then 100%. The most complex ones are currently being installed, so if you drive to sea shield, you might see some bigger machinery working at the moment to install the more complex ones. Last week we had another notice from that during an installation, more water meter started ticking, and that turned out to be a 65,000 liter a day leak, which was identified during the water meter installation, and with good collaboration from the homeowner within a week. Yesterday we got the notice that the leak has been resolved. So much appreciated of the support from those residents for addressing an unknown leak until last week. And in other situations elsewhere on the coast, we are still advancing longer outstanding leaks, and we're still pursuing water shut-offs as required to make sure that leaks are being resolved or not. Especially now we're going into stage 2 and 3, we really need to make sure that the large leaks are being addressed shortly. And as always, water updates are available at srd.ca. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Director Bax.
Thank you, Chair. It's always interesting to see these reports. I love the detail that goes into them, and seeing the rain that we had in the last 72 hours is very heartening. I know that the Chapman system is very, very rain dependent, and it seems to me, according to the statistics, that the snow really has very little impact on how we fare later in the summer, and it's very much due to rain. And it's also great to hear that this large leak, which represents daily use of 130 homes, was found and dealt with. My question is, the worst year that we've had on record was 2022, and so in a nutshell, can staff let us and the public know what has changed since then? I know that we've got the Chapman, or the Church Road well has come online. Have there been any other improvements to the system?
Thank you. Thank you, Director, for the question. Thank you, Chair. I think the biggest one, I think there are two big changes compared to 2022. One is we have Church Road online, which is a major difference. And I think the other one is we significantly changed the way we approach leaks. Instead of, we have more data, and since 2022, we are way more proactive in addressing leaks and more almost enforcing compliance with leak resolution compared to a more voluntary approach there. And the third thing I think is the water meter installations in Sea Shield that on a frequent basis are already showing leaks of the size that I just mentioned and that are being addressed. And we hope to, later this summer, early fall, to have the first water meters, all water meters read in Seychelles, and we anticipate to get a lot of, to be able to identify a lot of leaks, including most likely a lot of larger leaks as well that residents are just not aware of. So staff are preparing to the influx of leak notifications that are coming to us this fall and how we can address them as soon as possible. Because I think, but that the effect of that will only really show next year. But we are really gearing up to make sure that we can address those leaks when we get notified of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Couple of questions about South Pender, of course. Are we reaching the daily capacity of the plant, or is it the daily capacity of the license that's giving us the issue?
Thank you for the question. It's the license.
And so, are we going to ask for an updated daily limit on the license? Or are we hoping for the leak fixing and the billing to solve that part of the issue?
Great question.
I can start with part 2 and then I will do part 1 afterwards. We have some larger leaks in the South Pender system. We're currently trying to resolve 30,000 liters a day one. If that's not being addressed very shortly, we might need to pursue a water shut-off on that property. So on a system like that, 30 liters a day, 30,000 liters a day would make a difference for a regional water system, but way less compared to the South Pender system or North Pender system. So only addressing that leak would already give us some breathing room. And yes, I know for sure that there will be several properties on the South Pender system that are using a lot of water at the moment. So those leaks, as well as volumetric billing, most likely will definitely have created some room there. And as part of the board last year approved a project that is deferred now to 2026 to confirm if it's indeed required for us to ask for a license update, but it also might trigger in the event to be added to the license as a requirement for the creek. So we have to weigh the benefit and the potential additional requirements to see if that's actually warranted to do. So I think volumetric billing and leak resolution is currently the preferred approach to, and in general, it's saving money because if we don't, the less water there's required to be treated, the lower the operating costs of the entire system are.
Thank you. I'm just, did you have a follow-up?
No.
Okay. I'm just going to follow up myself on the question of leaks. Anecdotally, I'm aware of a couple of properties where there is a persistent high-volume leak. The homeowner is very elderly and not possibly capable of resolving the leak themselves, and we're reluctant to shut off the water to an elderly, vulnerable person. So is there any instance in which we could go in and repair the leak?
Thank you for the question. We've explored that question at the staff level in different ways, and we can't. And it's ultimately a liability issue. We cannot operate on private properties, and it's a responsibility of the homeowner. It's the same as if somebody's roof were to leak. it's a person's, it's part of the house, it's private property owner's responsibility.
It just is kind of, it makes me curious, but perhaps I'll take that offline. It's just, I know in some municipalities, if you don't mow your lawn, the municipality goes in and mows it for you because they have a bylaw that says that your lawn can't be longer than a certain amount. I was living in Calgary, they would do that. And they would go in and require you to have lawn care if you had too many dandelions. It was pretty strange. But, oh, maybe it's only in Alberta. Did any other staff want to weigh in on that, or? No, okay. All right, Director Stanford.
Thank you. There was a point where it notices Church Road coming online to support Chester. Is Church Road actually running now? Is that, I thought it doesn't come on until stage 2, but if you could clarify that, please.
Staff, please.
Thank you. Church Road is put online in anticipation of stage 2 being called.
Thank you. Director Inkster.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the report to staff. As much as they can provide us with these reports, it's good to report back to our communities with this information. I wasn't clear on the change, if there was any, and I think it's difficult because maybe the report was done a few days ago, but what happened with all the water we had over, I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, I think early Tuesday, Wednesday morning, people probably heard it in the middle of the night, all the water that came down, quite substantial. So I'm assuming that had some sort of effect in the higher elevations. And I'm not sure if staff spoke to that, but I guess what it also does is doesn't stop, but it means that you don't have to water your outside lawn and vegetables for at least a couple of days. So I'm assuming that was that kind of effect, although for only a few days. But I didn't hear much about that. I guess maybe staff doesn't know necessarily. The other thing that was mentioned by yourself, the chair, is leak issues. I think the regional district has heard from myself a number of times over the years. Mills Road is like, I don't know what's going on there. You can hear water in the ditches. It's flowing that well. That really throws me off in June, July. And then at the bottom of the road has been, you could see July, August over the last number of years full of water and flowing. So it's an older subdivision, so maybe it's water lines, but there's a lot of water in that on Mills Road. Anyway, I'm sure staff's aware, but it's just when you see that, Chair, all the amount of water that's in that ditch and then at the base of the water, you're like, wow, is there a leak? Because that's a lot of water. Thanks.
Thank you. Was that a question?
Let's do that, just like Jeopardy.
Okay.
Is staff aware of those issues in those neighborhoods that may be older where there may be leaks, A, and B, was it difficult to measure the amount of water that came down over the last number of days, which may be because the land is so dry that it's not moving it into our water systems? Thanks.
Jim Rosenboom.
Thank you. Staff are frequently contacted by residents about water in ditches where they didn't expect it. And what we usually do is we go out and confirm if it's actually chlorinated water or not. That's quite easy for us to confirm. And usually that it's a good indicator of what it is. So I'll follow up with staff, but I'm for 100% for sure that they already looked at this site as well. And if it's chlorinated water, of course, then we start looking at where it might come from. And what we would do in a situation like that, if we don't have any indication of where a leak is, that's where we have our, currently have our instrumentation then to actually assess where leaks might be in our distribution system in the area. The use of equipment that we install on fire hydrants, and we can check if there's any water leak between hydrants, and sometimes we can actually identify if there's a leak on the private connection. So if there's an indication that there would be a leak that is with chlorinated water, or water in the dish with chlorinated water, then we further investigate that. In terms of rain, last several days, there was about 5 to 10 anticipated. At the lake, we had, up until this morning, about 35 millimeters of rain, which was substantial. So the water was almost not flowing over the dam anymore, and that's definitely the case again. But with all the soils were still pretty saturated, not really dried out yet. So a lot of the water is immediately going into the creek and down the creek. So we've seen a substantial increase in creek flows, and that's already coming down. And I expect, especially with the warmer temperatures in upcoming days, that will indeed be the case. And I definitely also concur with the remark from Director Inkster about the fact that because of the rain, we currently see a little bit of reduction in the use of water because people are irrigating less, and that's good news.
Thank you. Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. Given the amount of sand in Seashell, I'm really not surprised about, 65,000 liter a day leaks, and I suspect there's probably still more of them to be found, of those sort of scales. I'm just wondering if staff could contemplate or could comment on. We've talked a lot about sort of, what these leaks mean in terms of, 500 homes or other projects we've got going on. But with all of these leak reductions, fundamentally, we're having to use less water through the water treatment plant. And I'm wondering, it's been a long time since we've seen any numbers from the Chapman Water Treatment Plant in terms of actual treatment volumes. And so I don't expect any exact figures today, but I'm just wondering if staff could comment on sort of any trends that they're seeing at the Chapman plant with all the leak resolutions we've been doing. Thank you.
Staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The board requested from staff to provide an update to the board on the effectiveness of some of these leak resolutions in the last several years. And we're preparing a report for that to present to the board in upcoming months, and we'll include some indication there what the impact is on the treatment plant in that report as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Director White.
Thank you. I'd like to return to the South Pender questions. Director Lee raised that and raised the issue of the license, and my recollection of the last couple of years is that demand was, as the report said, demand was lower last year, and that was fine within the license, but it was a year before that demand just skyrocketed in the early, and maybe there was a leak, or a couple leaks, I don't know. I forget if that was the case, really driving that demand. And that was really the problem. That's kind of what I got out of the last 2 years. It wasn't so much the license, it was the early summer usage really shooting up. And then, of course, there not being much left when it was really needed later in the summer. So I'm just wondering if when I read the statement in the report that there's higher demand than last summer, how does that higher demand compare to 2 years ago when it was really problematic and really caused serious issues later?
Staff.
Thank you. It's comparable with 2 years ago. So it is really a combination between, I think we have a better handle on the leaks, but we know that there are some high users in the system. That's why we had to call stage 2, because a lot of the use is irrigation.
Good to know. Thank you. Director Gabius.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, staff. And to me, the importance of conservation always comes back anytime we have a water supply update. Potable water is a shared resource. It's our collective water system. The more we can conserve, the better off we all are. And I have a question that perhaps, Chair, you're able to answer, is have we ever set an objective for the number of cisterns, or I know there's a rebate program where there's a certain amount that's doled out every year for people who want to install them, but is there an objective, like a rough objective of how much rainwater collection we would like on the coast?
I don't believe we've ever set an objective, but I'll check with staff.
Thank you for the question. No, Chair, we never set an objective. It's a voluntary program to incentivize water conservation. The reason for the size limits, we want bigger systems because those are really effective. A smaller weighing barrel just does not really make a difference for a longer period of for a dry summer. So, but we never actually set a formal objective as an SRD for that.
Thank you. And I think it would be difficult because we have no way of measuring how many people have rainwater collection systems on their property. So this is the last water supply report we're going to have until September. This is your last kick at the can, ladies and gentlemen. Director Stanford. Good.
And just in addition to Director Gabias's comments about conservation and rainwater cisterns, currently the rebate system is only available to people that are on the service, the regional water service, and any option to consider widening that benefit to other users, because our system is all interconnected, and any way we can support water conservation on areas that aren't on the regional service would also be a benefit to the region as a whole. So someday I hope to see that other areas have access to that rainwater program. Thank you.
GM?
Thank you, Chair. The rebate program is currently available for everybody that's on the North Pender Harbor system, South Pender Harbor system, as well on the entire regional water system. But not if you have a private well, then it's not the case. Yes.
Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to tag on that I'm pretty sure the rebate programs are all funded out of those water systems. Like, they're not funded from, some granting program we receive or anything like that. So I would be leery about us taking money that like regional water system has paid into and then funneling that out of the system. I'm not even sure legislatively we could do that. Thanks.
And I would point out that it should probably be a provincial responsibility, so we should take that to our MLA. Director Stanford.
Yeah, just to follow up, it isn't a question of who's paying for what. It's just the opportunity, any way that we can provide support to reduce the water uptake across the region. And I'm not saying it should come from another funded service or anything like that. It's just the opportunities could be there in some way that we should make use of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further hands. Director Inkster.
Quick question when we talk about when we built the water treatment plant, and I think maybe a couple of us in this room were at that opening of the water treatment plant when it was open. I'm not sure. Maybe the CEO. I was there, I think board members have been there since. It's big swimming pool, right? And now we're looking at what we'll do in future, whether we have to expand it. But my question is do we gather water off of the roof of that building? I mean, it's right on, when it rains, it's right on top of the treatment system, and it's a big roof, so it's a question. Thanks.
The roof?
Thank you. We're collecting the water from the roof, but it's not being reused.
Thank you. And since you mentioned the plant, are there going to be any public tours of the plant this summer? Because it's really a terrific plant, and I encourage my residents to go and check it out because I don't think people really appreciate what's involved in water treatment. So any open houses in the offing?
Thank you for the question. Usually, the summer season might be a good, from a communication perspective, a good time to do those tours. From a staffing perspective, it's not, because the plant is in full operation and staff need, currently our staffing levels are such that we cannot accommodate tours at the plant at the moment. And I will follow up with communication and my staff on offering public tours again later this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps a video tour, then people can enjoy it from their home. All right, I think we have exhausted the water supply, and from water we move to fire. Thank you very much, GM Rosenboom, and welcome, Chief Michael.
Ready for me? There are many areas within the Sunshine Coast Regional District outside of established fire protection areas. Although this feels unique or unusual, it's quite common through the province. Alternatives vary from provincial policy to the SRD's Regional Fire Smart program and are summarized in the report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was quick. Thank you very much. Director Bax.
Thank you, Chief. So I see in the report that there's the ability for communities to create a fire brigade, and that any fire brigade that is created still is they still have to train to the level of the playbook. So that's the same level of training that a career firefighter takes, and as all our volunteers have to take. And so it's and that type of thing for a community that does not have a settled fire department is quite an undertaking. They would have to interact with the Justice Institute and go through the training, and it can be quite expensive. And there's really a need for hands-on for a lot of it. There's a lot that can be done online, but there's a lot that needs to be done hands-on. And I was wondering if there is, maybe through some alternate funding, if there is an ability for our fire departments, our training officers, to offer specific training to candidates from different areas that are looking to organize themselves as a fire brigade. If we could set aside some training hours for them using our training officers. Now, it would probably need, our training officers would need to be compensated for this extra work, but there may be funding available for that. But the only way that I can see going forward to give these rural communities an opportunity to create a fire brigade, which is going to be something that can really help them in these times of interacting with BC wildfire, et cetera, is for us to do everything in our power to try to aid them. Now, I understand there's a lot of restrictions involved, but I'm confident that if staff can think outside the box, we may be able to come up with some solutions for people that are eager and willing to serve their communities in this way. And second question is, there are times when we do we divest ourselves of equipment that is no longer up to date for our standards, and if our divestiture of that equipment could be put into the hands of these fire brigades.
Thank you. Over to Chief Michael.
Well, an easy one to start off with. What I think I can say at this point is that the regional district does not currently oversee or fund fire service societies or brigades. So that would be a service level enhancement that would have to go through proper process to. And the second part about I think we would follow purchasing processes for disposal of assets. And those would generally be posted, and so that would be another decision if we were looking to donate equipment outside of our regular standard processes.
Thank you. Director Stanford.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for staff for providing this report. It was something we asked for out of the Fire Commission in October 2024. I think the primary benefit of this report for me and the constituents I'm representing is it demonstrates that there is a lack of options for communities outside fire service in the rural areas. And as Chief Michaels pointed out, it's not unusual. 45% of the province is not in a specific fire service, and those are the rural areas. But it doesn't mean that they should just be left unorganized. And part of the clarity of this report is it demonstrates that there are options through the province, and that's sort of the kind of programs that I was looking for. But those are around wildfire, First Nations supports. These are all important programs, but there's very little, or if anything, for rural communities that are looking for structural fire support. And that is just one of those facts that we're trying to overcome. How do we resolve this? It shouldn't just be a static scenario that we can't move forward to try and change. And that's what I'm hoping to see as we move towards budget, and I can come up with hopefully a feasibility study, work for expansion into Area F. So all these are issues that I'm not seeing a really clear line of resolution on. I think there's a certain duty of care, responsibility with the regional district. It is one of our core services, is emergency planning and equitable service to our constituents. And how can we provide, if not an overall service, then supports to providing their own fire protections beyond waiting for the province to determine whether or not a structural fire can be fought from a current service, which is what happened a few months ago, and the very difficult scenario where neighbors and the owners of the home had to watch a fire burn with a fire truck sitting there. These are things that aren't going to ever settle in these communities that are dealing with it. So I'm trying to continue to find ways to support constituents outside of the fire service and potentially, specific to Area F, where what happens with an expansion service, that's a different question. But there will always be these areas that need our support. And there is a certain duty of care to be able to provide some kind of, if not financial support, some tools for them to work with so they can advance their own protection. These, I think, are very reasonable requests from communities to their governing bodies. So I'm just wondering if we could speak a little bit more about the possibility of how brigades are created. Is this something that is considered in the province? And is there any role for the board to play politically in trying to get more support to communities that aren't currently serviced by structural fire support?
Thank you. And I'm just going to get my oar in the water here too, because this is an example of how the province's decision not to create new improvement districts has left a real gap, because an improvement district has far more powers than a fire brigade. They have the authority to tax, for instance, to support the service. And this leaves communities in a kind of a state of limbo, and perhaps is an avenue for advocacy as well. Did you have comments, Fire Chief?
Yeah, let's say maybe I've been thinking about this very carefully, right? Well, under the premise of the comment I made earlier that the regional district does not fund or oversee fire service societies or brigades. But I'm continuing my research out of interest as well. And, I don't see a standard or requirement, and quite honestly, a mixed bag when it comes to these fire services societies and in how they're funded or supported or operating. And I'm trying to find the best examples, so I can share that model. But there's member funded. There's great many of them are just donated funds from community members. But beyond that, that's a difficult question for me to answer, as I'm not running a society fire department. But as I said, I'm looking kind of out of interest on what that may look like, but also looking ahead to the 2026 budget process, where we will be presenting an idea to do a feasibility study to what expansion of the service might look like in Gibsons particularly.
Follow-up?
Thank you. I think I just want to make sure, and I'm not sure what it will take to make this so this doesn't go away. I want a process to be able to come back to this and be able to work through the larger sort of advocacy aspects of this. I can keep this going, but as staff have any suggestions on how I can maintain this is I guess it's through strategic plan, to get better support to the rural areas that don't currently have fire service. So right now, that's what I can do. But if anyone else can provide suggestions, how to continue this to be an actionable item on our list. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you. Director White.
Just on the topic of fire brigades again, I'm wondering, I appreciate Director Back's approach talking about training. That's an important aspect. Another a question I have on that is, like there are agreements in place for our volunteer departments to help back up the independent departments in Pender Harbor and Seashelt and work together. Can that also work for fire brigades? I mean, I think part of the reality we're looking at here is I've received a little bit of a oh, that's okay. You sure? I've received a little bit of some input from some of the concerned citizens too, and they often bring up like this is only happening like once every few years, a major structure fire like this. So if there were a fire brigade to kind of look after more minor issues on a day-to-day or maybe more month-to-month basis, let's hope, could there be a possibility of help from the Gibsons and Area Fire Department in those bigger issues once every few years of an actual serious structure fire?
Chief Michael.
That is a great question that I don't have the answer to. That's something that I'll certainly take away in my ongoing research of societies. I would suggest that perhaps to the previous comment regarding improvement districts and societies is where that may get blurry, but a very interesting question that I'll take back.
Director White?
And yeah, just somewhat on that too, I think part of this report is a bit out of context in that the Fire Commission already saw some other reporting, I think, about the feasibility of the Gibsons and Area Volunteer Fire Department expanding. So I just want to go over some of that, some of the basic rationale there again in the issue and the obstacles we're facing, which I think are provincial. And I mean, it would just help to have that explained again in that what are the obstacles of where is the threshold again? And I know this has been reported publicly and everything, but please just humor me in saying it again. What are the obstacles in our Gibsons and Area Fire Department being able to, where's the threshold of being able to help out? Like, I think it's a threat to life rather than threat to property. And where's that line decided upon, I guess, is my question. Is it insurance? Because I've heard a lot of just different perceptions in the community, or is it provincial regulation? And when did that happen, too? Because I've been talking to retired firefighters who said, well, you know, in the old days, of course, everything was different then, but was this a playbook? Did this come in with the playbook? Or, I mean, because it seems, you know, especially talking to retired firefighters, they just say, well, yeah, obviously we'd go help out whenever there was a fire. Yeah, that's not the case anymore, and I think it would help to understand that history and where the block is coming from.
Chief?
Let me do my best here, because there's a bit to unpack. And maybe helping to provide a bit of context in this report was I framed this with, written this on the behalf of the senior manager, and so trying to have a more regional approach and not so much focused on Gibsons, which is very tough, as I'm the Gibsons Fire Chief writing this report, and we have a lot of questions around that service. But in the report, I do talk about the provincial policy, which is, funny enough, the road and medical rescue policy, but it does include fire suppression in there as well. And it's fairly clear that a fire department may respond under a task number if there's an immediate threat to life. And that provides the department and the members with risk and liability insurance and just coverage for them. When this policy was first enacted, I'm not sure, but we've seen some significant modernization to how our fire departments have operated in understanding, you know, the risk and liability concerns, and where we can't just go and respond out of the good nature of our hearts like we used to. But this has also been the fire service that I've always known in my 24, 25 years in the service is, you know, we've had to be mindful of, you know, our level of training and our capabilities and our limitations. So, you know, I'm grateful that the policy is there, and we're not going to let someone perish in a fire, and we have that ability to respond. But it does limit us a little bit into operating within our defined boundaries and jurisdictions. So I'm not sure if that answers the question. Maybe I'll pause there.
I'm going to keep going through the speakers list. Director Bax?
Thank you. Yeah, in the old days, firefighters shared bunker gear. Somebody got the coat, somebody else got the pants. And then they started coming down with cancers that were presumed to be caused by their actions within houses. And so the world is run by insurance agents, but sometimes it's a balance. It's a good thing in some points. But the drive for fire protection within a community always has to start on the ground. As a government, we can only do so much. Without dedicated individuals within the community to organize themselves, this is not going to happen. Now I know that the director from Area F is looking for recommendations, and if you want to use your constituency funds to make posters to say organize yourselves, that would be a way to start. It's really, there are people within every community that have training, that are former, retired, or have spent some time in the fire service. And those are the individuals you have to lean to. And without a dedicated group of individuals within the community, there will be no fire protection. And so that's where they have to begin. And then once they've organized themselves, then as a government, we may be able to step in and aid them in their endeavor. But before that, I don't see anything happening.
I don't think that was a question. Director Stanford?
Thank you, Director Bax, for that. I'm just, again, more of a comment. I think we're all sort of moving in the same direction as how can the communities help themselves as part of this. I think in return, there isn't a clear sense of how the regional district can then help those communities, whether they're organized or not. And I think that's part of where we have to look further. It's not just a regional district issue, it is provincial in nature as expectations change, climate changes, our insurance scenarios change. We have to acknowledge that this is not static, that communities do have a reasonable expectation for greater service in certain areas, including fire. One of the questions I had, and it came up in you mentioned it, Chief Michaels, is the provincial policy. You mentioned that for emergency response to medical or road issues. Just out of interest, does the fire department respond to emergency situations other than fire along the Port Millen Highway beyond the 6-kilometer line? And if so, or how are they covered for that and not for fire?
Great question.
Yeah, so I can certainly answer that one, and that is with the same criteria. If there are life safety concerns and risks, then we can get a provincial task number and have coverage to respond. So another example of that might be a motor vehicle incident where there is somebody entrapped. We have responded to those types of incidents.
Thank you. Director Bax.
Just to follow, this is a question. So when you are, when you get a call from outside your area, you respond to, you ask dispatch to get in touch with some council, some committee that gives you a task number that allows you to cross the line? Can you explain that one to me?
So when we get a call and we have an understanding that there's a risk to life, we will respond proactively and with an expectation that a task number would come. Our dispatch provider does us a favor and will contact the Emergency Communication Center and seek approval from a duty manager for a task number for the incident that we'd be responding to.
Thank you. And I'm just going to whine a little bit more about the improvement district situation because, for instance, Seashell and Pender Harbor, both fire improvement districts. The province, because some smaller improvement districts have been having problems over the years, the province decided to withdraw support from, for instance, improvement districts are no longer eligible for grant funding, and then they decided not to create any more. And I really think that policy should be re-examined because some improvement districts are operating very successfully still to this day. I've been in touch with a couple of them. And to just try and wipe them all out because some of them were in trouble is unreasonable. It was a tool that citizens could use to self-organize around important issues in their community. And so, yeah, I think we should advocate with the province to reconsider establishing new improvement districts where there is a good case to be made, a good financial and service case to be made for that. So I think I see no further speakers on the list. I want to thank Chief Michael for stepping in on behalf of our emergency manager who was unavailable for this. And we look forward to more communication on this topic to come. So thank you very much. That is the end of reports in our agenda package today. What we have next is communications. We have a letter from the District of Sechelt. Do any of our Sechelt representatives? Yes. Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. I can speak to this a little bit. This was a motion that came to council twice, and we passed it on the second go-around. It turns out there's a fair bit of controversy around the temporary foreign worker program, sort of as a whole, and as a policy tool federally. But my approach when I was looking at this motion and my support for this motion at council, which we did pass this resolution unanimously, was that, regardless of your thoughts on the program or, if there's any problem employers within the program, things of that nature, fundamentally families deserve to be able to remain together. Especially if they've left the, safety and comfort of their homes and have come overseas to Canada to work, to make a better future for their families. They deserve the opportunity to stay together. And so this motion is asking for the federal government to make some adjustments to the temporary foreign worker program. They made some changes earlier in the year that has sort of caused some disarray and caused a lot of uncertainty for families that are already in the country. And so I did spend about a half hour on the phone with MP Patrick Weiler in the lead up to this vote. And he explained that he is working on advocating for a rural versus urban program because the problems that they're trying to solve tend to be more in the urban environment. And he is cognizant of the fact that in rural communities, and especially ones that are remote like the Sunshine Coast, you can't really commute from a bigger center for a job. And so I am supportive of the resolution. I'm supportive of the SCRD also providing a letter of support. I'm not going to move it here though, because I did move it at the District of Sechelt, so I'll leave it for somebody else. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that people might have about it.
Thank you very much. Director Inkster.
I know that Chair Councillor Toth at that table did a fair amount of work in research and then putting together the recommendation. And he did bring it forward as creating the recommendation to move it. I will move it here because I did second it there, so I'll move it here. Of course, my support doesn't change from that table to this one. I'm consistent, so I will move it, and I just wanted to, I hope that we can support the needs and have empathy for those affected, and that's why I'm introducing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I see a seconder? Yes, I do see a seconder. Do we have any further discussion on Director Stanford?
Thank you, Chair. Regardless of the bigger issues that this particular policy, as it evolves, coming from a family that immigrated and also a family that was separated due to work. And it was a very different circumstance to what this is trying to address. Coming from the colonial center of the universe at the time, it's much easier, but it was still extremely difficult as a family to be separated for years based on how, like, the ability of work in Canada and the ability to bring families together. So I think this is incredibly important. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further speakers on this subject, so I'm calling the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody. Looks like we're running out of agenda. Wow. There's no new business. There's no in-camera session, so that takes us to adjournment. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And finally, are there any questions from the gallery? Do we have a virtual gallery? No one in the virtual gallery. Is there any questions from Mr. Wynn? Do come up to the mic.
Thank you. Now we got a green light. Thank you for the discussion, conversation, and questions from other directors about expanding this fire protection area. I just want to remind the board that this initiative began over 2 years ago, and we're still talking about it, and it started with a petition, and that petition circulated in the community of West Howe Sound, and particularly the communities that weren't served by fire protection. And we had overwhelming support on that petition of over 90% of the parcel owners and about 80 signatures on that petition. So the support is there. I thank my fellow community members for being here today to witness the conversation. So where we're headed now, and I hope that, and I ask, is that great consideration be given to a feasibility study, a independent feasibility study that would show what we don't want an answer of no. We want an answer of yes, and this is how it could happen. What is necessary to do it? And we know that in areas of Roberts Creek, for example, they have water tendering systems, and trucks. So is that what's necessary? And would that be something that perhaps an improvement district would have been the right answer for that to establish so that the community could raise funds for it? So we just ask that due diligence and a recognition of the duty of care of the regional district is there, that and the community is asking for a reasonable process to go through this, and a expectation that there is reasonable level of service that can be provided. So that's what we ask for, and we look forward to budget discussions in the fall and a advancement of a feasibility study. Thank you.
Thank you. That wasn't exactly a question, but what the heck?
Oh, I did ask. It wasn't asked.
Okay. If there are no further questions, then we can close down this party. Oh, we have? Yes?
Thank you for that support to keep families together. I'm emotional. I didn't expect that from day one I will get the support from Honorable Mayor, and from there it moved forward. And from Keep Families Together and my fellow foreign worker, thank you, and we are really grateful, and the support that we are getting from the community, down to the local government, down to the Seashell District, down to the MP Patrick office, is overwhelming. And some of my fellows are really crying because we don't expect that this kind of support we are getting from all of you guys. Thank you. We are so grateful, especially to our employers. I didn't expect that this much of attention, this much of support is coming from the whole Sunshine Coast. Thank you so much. And we bring buttons if you want to wear ones. Thank you so much. That's all what I can say. Thank you.